I'm not in China anymore. Well, right now I'm in China, but this is pre-recorded. If you're watching this video, it means that I've already left China and therefore I can now say things about China that I can't tell you while I'm in China. So I recorded this video, uploaded it to a cloud, and then deleted it from my phone just in case someone checks it. And that's the problem with countries that don't have freedom of speech and freedom of the press, like China. But that's only a problem for us and our way of seeing reality and our concept of freedom, which the Chinese aren't interested in. What the Chinese see as freedom is very different from what we do. Being able to criticize the government in videos or on social media is irrelevant to them. And it wasn't until I came here that I found out why. We'll see everything, but I came here to report, not to criticize. So it's my duty to show you both the negative and positive. And yes, China has a lot of very positive things that I've been showing you, but it also has many very negative things. And who talks about it? Some people who talk about this critically are suppressed, censored, and in some cases imprisoned. And if they are foreigners, well, in extreme cases, it has even happened. They are no longer allowed to leave the country and they end up staying here, kept away. So since I'm no longer in China, let's speak clearly, really clearly. Are you ready for an adult conversation, a difficult one? We're going to touch on several sensitive topics, but the main one is why China overcame extreme poverty in 20 years while we took 200 years. No, why is China making progress and we are not? This progress is dismissed because China's government isn't democratic, so it gets no credit. Why is that? Because they govern like us. Should we dismiss such an important decision just because they didn't elect their president? Will we accept that they're doing better than us or not? And are we going to keep denying it just because we see them as a dictatorship? Yes, here they don't have the right to vote, but we are plagued, infested by the damn poverty of Latin America, the damn shame of having to go out and be servants in other countries, servants of others. The gringos treat us like dogs, like pests, wanting to build a humiliating wall. And China is an option to replace and stand alongside the American dream, but there is no freedom of expression. The evidence of that is that I never dared to talk about the things I'm going to talk to you about now while I was in China. What more proof of no freedom of expression do you need than me having to wait until I left? It all started with an Instagram story that I posted. Here's the story. I sarcastically said how horrible dictatorships are and posted a video showing the happiness, harmony, peace, and security of the Chinese people. Next, a photo shows an orchestra performing live Chinese and classical music while children dance. The perfect picture of happiness, like a photograph of heaven itself, paradise. I sarcastically wrote, how can they live like this? And then I showed them a photograph of the missing immigrants in Chiapas. A coyote filmed them and then everyone vanished, even the children. If you more or less understand the sarcasm I was trying to make, like here, where it's a dictatorship, people live peacefully and in harmony, and in Mexico, which is a capitalist paradise, right? People and children vanish. I then posted another sarcastic video saying, poor Chinese people, how I pity them. What could they envy us for? The video shows things we can't even imagine in Latin America. A futuristic, clean and prosperous city, safe, without crime and families enjoying themselves. Not just the upper class, but everyone at every income level, and not just in the city center or tourist areas. And I showed that video hoping that people would grasp that concept so I could tell them, don't focus on that mentality that only the good things are on this side and all the bad things are only on that side. But a gentleman left me a very accurate comment, that says, tell that to the Uyghur Muslims or to the people in Tibet. And this is because the Uyghur Muslims are an ethnic group. Here in China, they are going through a cultural genocide by the Chinese government. And Tibet as well. The people of Tibet are under occupation and surveillance, being slaves in their own land, prisoners in their ancestral homeland. We have what happened in Tiananmen Square, we have what happened with the Falun Gong practitioners, we have the forced imposition of having only one child, which was considered good. When I show them this video and say, look at China's prosperity, I look like a hypocrite or like someone who is not aware of the suffering of these human beings, a hypocrite because I always tell them, I care about human rights, about immigrants in the United States, about the children of undocumented people, about the dignity of those who are detained. But why not for the dignity of Tibetans and Uyghur Muslims? Why? That's what I want to tell you. I'm not praising the Chinese government. No, I'm not telling you that either. Let's follow China's lead. Turn Latin America into China, have China's president visit Mexico afterward, and let them repeat what they did here. We can't replicate what happened in China. We can only learn from what they did right and leave aside what they did wrong. There is. And excuse me, I hadn't mentioned it. It's just not wise. It's not safe. While you're in China, I'm not saying let's copy China. I'm using China as an example, as evidence that a third world country with millions of poor people can achieve economic security quickly with an efficient government. I'm not denying the atrocities that China has committed and continues to commit. I'm giving you the example that it is possible to move forward in a short time. And for us in Latin America, it's urgent. The concept is really easy to understand. And I apologize to those who misunderstood me. And I also apologize for not being able to talk about these topics before. You simply can't do it while you're in China. And I've uploaded videos where I say I don't support communism, I don't support the Chinese government, and I support capitalism. Which makes me one of the first Western influencers to come to China, to Chinese territory, and do it. And not be arrested, because up to the moment of recording this video, I haven't been arrested. Watch my videos in China where I state I don't support communism or the Chinese party. See if any other YouTuber does that. Very few have it. Even so, many people saw me as a traitor to my values, which are human rights and dignity for all people in the world. But to be able to make such sensitive content and talk about a country as influential as China, you need to have a strategy. You shouldn't be foolish or reckless. Come to China, show everything good so that the dogs. Latin American governments should feel ashamed when they see another country succeed. And then later, also show the bad things. Because I have to tell you the truth, the reality is that there are both things. For native Chinese people, the ethnic group called Han, who are the majority, things have prospered a lot. But for ethnic minorities like the Hui Muslims and Tibetans, not so much. And I'm also aware of the issues with democracy like Hong Kong. I also agree about the threats of expansionism like Taiwan, so I already have that strategy where I send them both messages. This country has prospered a lot, and I hope our governments learn from it. And this country, with authoritarianism, has also harmed the human rights of millions of people. Let's do what's good, leave behind what's bad, so that Latin America can learn from it. From the example of the Chinese government, without copying them and without imitating the negative. How they brought prosperity to the Chinese people. And that same thing can be given to us, because we deserve it too. What the Chinese citizen deserves, we deserve as well. And is the intelligence, ingenuity, and dedication of the Chinese the same as that of the Hispanic? If they were able to progress, so can we. But China had this flaw. It is only giving this prosperity to the Chinese of the Han ethnic group. And what I refer to is the prosperity of this specific ethnic group, which numbers in the hundreds of millions. And I show you this because we can't do it like this without being like this. The minorities affected by the heavy hand of the Chinese government can already see how easy it is. We copy the good things from Fulanito, let's not imitate the bad. The reason I show you China's prosperity is to put an end to the myth that Latin American governments have been telling us for centuries. You can't change a country that fast or control such a large population. We've already been marked by the Spanish. These are effects of colonization, effects of what Spain did to us. Nothing but excuses, cheap, ridiculous excuses that are very easily disproven. Here's the evidence that that's not true. The only thing I'm trying to do by speaking well of China is to make a point to the governments of Latin America that you don't need to destroy the whole country and rebuild it from scratch. As they tell us it has to be done in order to bring us prosperity little by little, step by step, China, going industry by industry, sector by sector, was able to do it with a key factor: without corruption, at least not at low levels. Of course, the Chinese government is not free from corruption, but at low levels, the laws were enforced, unlike in our case. I remember being told as a child that for Mexico to become a developed country, it would have to be destroyed with a bomb and rebuilt. From the beginning, China didn't go through that. They told us that society had to be re-educated, that people had to be put in re-education camps. Where they disconnect your chip, they deprogram you. Everything we learned as a society is erased, and you only learn new things. Not even Chinese. Gradually, they integrated. If they already had a culture of communal living, they already have that mentality of working as a team and moving forward together. But they didn't have to dismantle everything to start from scratch. They didn't have to be destroyed and start over. They dismantled all the systems and organizations that kept them in poverty, and we can do the same. Well, I'm making this video for you because the next video is about migration to China, and that's my specific topic. But I talk about migrants and migration topics, and I want to expand all the possible migration options. And China is a very good country to migrate to. So in the next video, I'm going to give you instructions on how to emigrate to China. How can you come? What programs are there? How much can you earn? What will your quality of life be like? How long does the process take? All of that. But first I have to tell you honestly, this is China, a country of incredible progress for the majority and oppression for the minority. Yes, everything is admitted. As I tell you, I don't defend any type of government or any politician or any ruler. I stand for the dignity of human beings. Most Chinese people have significantly improved their quality of life. And I'm telling you this not with the intention of denying the suffering of the ethnic minorities who are indeed oppressed. And remember, no matter how authoritarian the Chinese government may be, in Latin America we're much worse off before it falls. The governments of most Spanish-speaking Latin American countries have committed many more atrocities and human rights violations, worse than the Chinese government. The Chinese government says, I don't allow such things, and Latin America says, oh rookie, look, hold my beer just in my home state in Chiapas, just in Chiapas. In the time I've been alive, there have been massacres, mass disappearances, kidnappings, lootings, and a civil war, just to mention a few. Don't pay attention to what the Chinese government has done on this side of the world, because the smoke and blood from what they're doing back home doesn't even let us see this far. Only without the progress they have here. The Chinese government. It's tough, but it progresses. Ours is corrupt, murderous, and stagnant. In Tama, we're oppressed, all of us, we're screwed, both rich and poor. The poor because they can't get ahead, and the rich because they're not safe. They have to watch out for extortion and kidnappings, and not just the rich, but also those who are starting a business. Look, something I told the Chinese that really amazed them, I said, look, in Mexico, you can take out your phone, open TikTok or any social network you want, Facebook, whichever you want, and post an insult. You can make a meme about the president where you distort and change his face in an offensive way and nothing happens. And here in China you can't, but here in China you can take out your phone, leave it on your table and go eat. When you come back, it's still there. You can leave your car with the keys and it's still there. So, which do you prefer? In Mexico, you can go to a government press conference and boo the president, interrupt his speech, and nothing happens. The most that happens is that they kick you out. And here in China, you can't do that, but here in China, can you open a business without organized crime coming to extort you? Extortion! Which one do you prefer? Which one do you prefer? Here in China, you can't stand on a corner with a sign speaking out against the government, a protest you can't, but you can stand on the corner at midnight with jewelry and watches, and some guy on a motorcycle doesn't show up with a gun to take it from you. Which one do you prefer? And the people who are safe because they're accomplices. Like the saying goes, silver or lead. If a rich businessman or governor hasn't been taken out, it's because he's in collusion. Look, I'm going to take the liberty of stealing this video without this girl's permission. Leah on Veil, that's the name of her page in China. I'll leave you a link here. She explained it in a way that I couldn't explain to you, plus her opinion is much more valid because she's Chinese. And she explains it in a perfect, precise, impeccable way anyone can understand it. I'll leave you the video now, with her permission, of course.
I am Leia, an intercultural analyst in China. Let me explain the difference in the United States. Freedom means being free from the government, but in China it's the opposite. Here, freedom means being free from chaos. China's pain didn't come from too much government, but from a lack of it. That's why, for many Chinese people, freedom is living in peace, with order, with a predictable future, without life being threatened. Or let's say that's the best possible situation.
Look, I already knew many Hispanics who have been living here for years. And they all tell me when I came here to China, all of this was a disgusting mess with crickets and weeds. And in the years I've been coming here, I've seen how it modernized and urbanized in a way that benefits the majority. They told me the stereotypes about China were true when I arrived. Yes, they ate bat, porcupine, pangolin, they put them in boiling oil, and they even had cats there, the scary ones, and they would also butcher them alive to eat. That was the old China. That China doesn't exist anymore. The China we saw in the movie doesn't exist anymore. Even the Chinese see it as distant history when I show them the viral videos from China I used to watch. When someone grabs a dog, woof woof, and chops it up to throw it in the pot. They themselves are shocked because that's not the China they know. They have also left behind all the negative aspects of their culture. Most of them, a lot of the negative aspects of their culture, and they have accepted and developed the positive aspects of their culture. Of course, they are not a perfect society. They still have many prejudices and things they need to change and improve. But they have left behind many negative things and have moved toward a future together. Because we haven't, that's all I want to say to you. We have a culture of corruption, of poverty, of praising and idolizing drug traffickers, of forgiving corrupt politicians for a food basket, of voting for the incompetent just because they bought your vote. That's what we have to leave behind. And if we do, we will progress very quickly, industrialize in a profitable, positive, and sustainable way. And I came all the way here just to set an example for you. To finish, my perspective on the world has changed a lot. Once I came to China, I realized China is definitely going to be a war power, and I really do want to come to China regularly, at least once a year, to witness this process. Are we witnessing the birth of a world power? When I was a child, as far as I remember, the United States was already a world power. I wasn't a witness to its development, to how it became one. By the late 1970s, it was already a world and military power. We didn't see that happen. I didn't experience it. But China? Yes? In the few years I have left to live, I want to witness the birth of this giant that is going to rule the world, to dominate the world in a way very different from what we are used to. Because it is not a democracy. So everything that happens in China will continue to be a relevant part of my content for those who want to know. How is this new world power developing? The good, the bad, what we can learn from, and what we shouldn't copy? All investment opportunities, innovative technology, everything. All right, next video. Instructions on how to emigrate to China for those who are interested. May courage be with you, and see you next time.